Did you kill those lights from the lead? Thanks, sir. Okay, so kind of building on last year. This year's a little more weight room oriented, and at the very end I'll kind of talk about how your conditioning program is basically the same thing. We're going to go over how to basically build a strength program, what needs to be covered, where to start, how to finish, that sort of thing. And as just an overall example, how I look at it, to put it in perspective to plan it, is as if I was writing a book. Okay, what's a good book got to have? It's got to have a beginning. You have to know where you're starting. Okay, there has to be some plot. And in this case, I call it the evolving purpose of your story. If not, it's not going to make sense. Nobody's going to want to follow it, and nobody's going to understand why. Okay? It has to have divergence. By divergence, I mean it has to change as things change throughout. Okay? Which links right to the next one, character development. In our case, it's a little bit different. You know, like writing a story, you know, they have to, okay, the character's growing throughout the book. In our case, these athletes change all the time, okay? From week to week, from day to day. You may not feel the same. You may have had a game yesterday. You may have a game tomorrow. And that's where all the divergence comes in. Your program has to take all of that into account. And then there has to be a conclusion. The conclusion in a program is a lot different. It could be the end of a season. It could be every time you test. It could be whether or not you want to test. It could be, okay, I'm only going to be here for 3 years, and this is what we're going to do. Okay? So your conclusion is different for everybody. And that leads right to the fact that the coach is the one that determines it. All right? And this is different everywhere. This works across the board, whether it's an O-line coach, D-line coach, head coach, strength coach. The coach determines how that story pans out. Okay? So starting off with, how do we begin? What do we need? Okay, we got, what about the athlete? What about the sport? In our case, what are we training for? Football, right? What does football have that we have to have? We want our athletes fast? We want them big? Big as we can get them, right? Injuries. What about injuries? Injured players can't play, can they? Okay? So these are the kind of things we're looking at here. Athletes. We'll get into this. Okay? Athlete assessment. Number one thing, especially throughout different stages here. Training age. Now training age is specifically called training age because not all of you started playing the same time, did you? Some of you have played since you were 10. Some of you just start playing when you're 15. Some guy turns, 17 and says, hey, all my friends play football, I'll go try football. So his training age is 0, even though he's 17. Okay? The variance. I call the variance the difference from your least athletic player to your best athletic player. Okay, what is that variance? Because my program has to take into account both levels of player. Okay? And then from here, we get into sport. What's the sport need? All right? What kind of movements are involved? And this is why guys in my profession get into this sport-specific stuff. Sport-specific is a bunch of BS. Okay? It should be called athlete-specific. Athletes do things that a lot of normal people don't do, but sport-wise, everybody needs to move. Physiological demands. So we're talking about how your body needs to be in condition in order for you to play your sport well. Okay? And then injury analysis. What are the 2 most common injuries in football?
Ankle.
Ankle might be here. Okay. Yeah. Okay, it is.
Ankles.
Ankles, really.
Yeah,
That's a
then I
whole
think
different thing. Okay, concussion, ACLs. All right, so those are what we focused on. ACL prevention, concussion prevention. Okay, those are two really big things for us. Must-haves, and this is kind of just a continuation here. I call it the 5 S's. It's just easier for me to remember as a progression of, okay, I skipped a step. All right, so I just go on these one at a time. Safety first. Your program has to be built so all your players are safe. All your athletes have to be able to do what they got to do on a daily basis. Everybody has to be strong. Okay? You got 11 guys on the field. Your weakest guy is your weakest link, no matter what. Okay? Everybody needs to be strong. And it's harder to kill strong people, right? Stability. The strength and the stability kind of go together. You have to be able to give and take a hit. Okay? This is where concussions come in too. That's a stability problem. Fast, and then overall stamina, your conditioning. Okay? These two kind of go together. So this is my strength, and this is my conditioning. All right? And the strength plays right into the speed aspect of that too. So I just call it the 5 S's so I can remember each piece better. From there, moving on, so what are some other things we might want to take into account when we build our program?
Goals.
Excellent word. Goals. What are the goals of your program, right? Where's your program going to go? It's a good one. I call it values, and I'll get into a little bit why. Values and goals are different. What do you believe in? Okay? What do you believe everybody's going to get out of your program? What do you want them to get out of your program? What are you establishing is how you want to, in my case, train guys. And like if I was to sit down with all these guys and we talked about like I want to train them this way because of this and this is what I want to do at this time, they're going to argue with me. Well, we don't do it that way. Well, we do it this way because not everybody's values are the same about what they're trying to get done. How do you perceive what your athletes are to you, and how do you treat them in return? Okay. And I say perceive because coaches at different levels look at this differently. We're building a bunch of young men. Okay. Or, well, this guy's got to show up for work every day and get it done. Okay. I'm looking at athletes by a whole different point of view right there. And then how do you treat them in return? Is it your job to show up? Did you just sell me short? Or, hey, that's a great job on that squat today. You've never squatted that much. Like, it's a whole different ballgame depending on how you're dealing with your athletes. And then what's important for your team right now? Okay? And examples of conversations that I have with Coach Clark. We'll talk about the progression of the program, and then he'll notice we'll notice that, okay, our benches are getting weak. We haven't been benching heavy enough for the last month or so. So next cycle there, we change that up. We divert, we go back to benching heavier again, get some weight on the guys, and then we see that change come back. So we move things around based on what the team needs right now. Now this can be season to season too. You may get it, in our case, we get a group of freshmen come in. One year, we get a pretty stout group of guys that jumps right into the weight program. They're ready to go. The next season, they all come in looking like wide receivers and quarterbacks. And then it's like, okay, we got to take a step back. We got to look at what we've got right now.
It's the John Harden kind of record.
Yeah.
So I rub it off. Oh, Sebastian.
Next week, Sebastian speaks. Sorry, Sebastian.
Now, that was one thing. A few of you guys were in the weight room today.
Yep.
Okay? Second session, second piece of the weight room today was things that I noticed this morning on the field. Okay? And this is just, sometimes that's what you do. We're like, okay, here was my plan for today, but here's something I noticed. It was a weakness that I thought needed to be addressed. So we tackled that in the weight room first thing today. Okay? So before we jump into the full-fledged program here, I'm going to go over some basic guidelines for periodizing and riding training program. Okay, this part's kind of the boring part, the science-based pieces of it. So I'll just kind of throw it up there. I shared this with you.
Mm-hmm.
So he'll have all the pictures and stuff like this. Periodization, all it is overall, it's just a strategy to promote long-term training and performance improvement with pre-planned, systematic variations in training, specificity and intensity, and volume organized within the cycles of the program. That sounds like somebody wrote it in a textbook, because they did. That's because they have to make it very scientific. What the graph is showing you, and you can kind of see how the arrows along here are where they break it into cycles within the system. Okay? Performance, intensity, and volume is showing you as your volume increases to a point and your intensity increases, see how they're kind of parallel? And then you reach a point where your intensity is so high, your volume has to drop. Because if they both keep going, this line's going to come up and then drop straight off. Okay? Your performance line will keep increasing, and this is where the science comes in, as long as your intensity and your volume actually switch over and divert. This is where you get in-season work. In-season, intensity's high. So in-season, you want the volume of work to be lower. Okay.
Chris, what do you mean by volume?
Volume of work, good question, would be your set and rep scheme. Okay, I can still go really heavy in the weight room if I'm only doing 5 sets of 1 or 3 sets of 2. But I can still have guys lift at 90% of their max if that's all the volume we're using, because 90% of my max is intense, but the volume of that work's really low. And it's good to do that in season. This is how you can still maintain strength or actually gain more strength in season, is because your intensity level in the season's high anyway. So if you maintain that intensity in the weight room in the off days, you're actually helping the nervous system keep itself going. Cycles. This is just how they describe things and break it down. A macro cycle is your full plan. Okay? Mesocycle is just pieces of that plan, which we break into smaller periods, which end up being about a month. Now, the way our schedule flips out, and you'll see this next, is it ends up being a 5 or 6 week period instead of just a month. And then the micro is your weekly plan, or however your smaller plans break up. Okay? Now, this is specifically our plan. This is the plan I used for our team this year. Okay? This was coming out. We didn't go to the state championship last year, but this is coming out of December through January and into this season. This is how I break it down. We come out in circuits in kind of a recovery period where we do a lot of circuit work and we do a lot of light movement stuff to get the guys keep the blood flowing and get their bodies back. January, we hit off with hypertrophy, which is building muscle, and strength. I never drop strength. Okay? I flip it because strength becomes more important as we get closer to spring ball. So I piece it all together here, and lifts per week I keep track of because I want to know how many opportunities we have to get better before the next max. And that's something I reflect, if we talk about, oh man, our maxes went down, blah, blah, blah. Oh, okay, right here. We're not getting as many opportunities in here as we will at some points to get better. So we have to take that into account. I wrote these as macro is the whole piece of the season there. Meso is my period before we max. Now we still max. There's a lot of schools that don't, and I'll get into that a little bit later, and ways to get around having to max and test guys. Okay. I keep notes on important things that are in that period that will affect our workout schedule. Okay? And that's just kind of to remind myself. And then down here, I've got these color-coded because this is how I perceive our season. Start of our season, it's the start of the season, so guys are just fresh on football, but it's not that tough. That part of our schedule is not that tough. Our September schedule, we have 3 teams in a row that are really solid teams. There's going to be really tough competition. So I have to take that into account. Our guys are going to be pretty beat up that month. October, that's our district, and that's actually the easiest time of our season, in my opinion. And then we go into the playoffs there. So we're going to probably end up playing a lot of the teams we play back here. Okay. The bigger section here, I just broke it down so it's easier to read.
What does the M stand for?
The M is our max day.
Okay.
Okay, or our max week. Spread it over a whole week. Now, when we max, we will max our big lifts, which in our case, bench, power clean, squat are the main ones. And we'll throw in incline, just so we have numbers to use for the guys. We break that apart throughout the week, and we still lift on max days. We don't just max and call it a day. At least I don't think we do. We start off season. We start off heavy. We go 4 times a week in the off season, unless we have a day off. These are days they get out of school here. As we get towards spring ball, we downshift a little bit. Okay? Part of this is because we go to strength and power. Okay, so the power days are a little more intense than just hypertrophy days. And I'll get into the difference between strength, hyper, and power as we progress through here. And we'll come back and look at this again after all that. As we get out of spring ball, and we maintain lifting during spring ball, so we don't lose strength, we come into the end of school. And this is where things get a little hairy, because kids get a little unfocused at the end of the school year. And they throw in graduation and all that other junk that they have to do to get out of school. And we throw a max in there before we start our summer work, so we have numbers to work on in the summer that are more relevant going into the fall. Okay? And then we'll max right at the end of the summer before we start football. And then we don't max any during end season. All right? We have a dead period, which I threw in here, which is 2 weeks where we're not allowed to have the kids together in an organized fashion. To me, that's terrible, because that's 2 weeks of unorganized weightlifting. But we get them in as much as we can between the end of school and then we get it in going into the max. Now here is where we usually have a pretty terrible max. These 2 weeks off will tell you why, right?
Our kids don't do anything.
They don't do anything for those 2 weeks. They go jack around and play video games and go lay by the pool. And then they come back, and basically all this right here is worthless because of these 2 weeks off, and then they've only got 2 weeks to get ready for a max. But there's nothing I can do about that. Okay. Overall guidelines, and this is where we'll get into kind of the difference, the rules for hypertrophy, strength, power, and all that kind of stuff. And again, this is the science stuff here. This is what they've shown is more effective. Here's the actual chart of volume intensity and how it relates to performance. Okay. Now they break this into prep, transition, just different names for the modes that this Matveyev guy came up with. Okay. You want to do high volume prep work. So anything endurance or hypertrophy related, okay, and I call it general prep. These are basic movement patterns to get guys ready, okay, get the body thinking it's going to lift. And the hypertrophy stuff is when you're trying to put on muscle, when you're trying to make guys bigger. You want high volume when you're doing that because you want the muscles to have to go through a lot of stress. As the intensity increases, volume decreases. You can see that right here on the chart. Okay? During competition, keep the intensity high, keep the volume low. It should result in your performance peaking when you need it to. Okay? Now, the other thing I should point out, and I'm not going to get into this too much, linear periodization is a steady growth over time. That's why they call it linear. It's better in most cases, and a lot of people argue this. Undulating is kind of the new way to do it, like our season. You know, it starts out a little easy and then gets real hard. If I had our guys on a linear progression, that'd be horrible trying to make it all the way through to the playoffs. So we undulate how tough our workout weeks are based on what we're going through. And then postseason transition should be low volume, low intensity. And that's when you're coming in after season. And you're just trying to let the body recover from the season competition. The basic scientific progression here for resistance training. You want to start out with the hypertrophy and the endurance. You're getting the body bigger. You're getting the body more ready to keep going. You move from hypertrophy to strength, from strength to strength power, and then from strength power into peaking. Okay? And peaking is basically you just up the intensity. And let's have more maintenance there. In my opinion, the maintenance thing, since they've proven that teams can keep increasing strength during season, doesn't do any good to me to try to maintain if I know I can peak. And it just doesn't make sense. The percentages that you want to work at are the important pieces here. Okay? So to put on size or muscle endurance, you want to keep the weight pretty low and get in a lot of it. For the hypertrophy, you want, well, it's not necessarily true. Okay, I'll break this up a little more here. Endurance-wise, and I think I do break it up a little later. Endurance, you want to stay between like 12 and 20 reps. Hypertrophy, now they say 10. I say between 8 and 12. Okay? 3 to 6 sets of that. As you go into strength, we go heavier weight, 80 to 90%, lower reps. Okay, they say 4 to 8. I say 1 to 6. Strength power, they switch this up because they're different. Strength power, now we can up our percentages a little bit because we were working at heavy weight. We can up that. When you go power, you want to drop that a little. And that's because power is moving weight quickly. If you can't move the weight quickly, you're not developing power, you're just doing really ugly strength moves. Okay? And we want 3 to 5 sets of that as well. And these are low reps. And then the peaking, the 93% RM. What a lot of coaches do at the collegiate level is they'll have guys lift at like 93 to 95% of their max, but they'll do like a 3x1 or a 5x1, and that's going to be their like main piece of their workout for the day. And then the transition stuff, notice they say recreational activity. This is where we get our guys together and we do light circuits. This is a good time to like get guys together, throw in some games with like reaction balls or med balls and stuff like that. Anybody ever played dodgeball with a med ball? That's some motivation right there. I'm kidding, we don't do that. So goal reps here. Go through it again. Endurance 12 to 20, hypertrophy 8 to 12, strength 1 to 6, power 1 to 5. And the only reason that's different is because you're moving this fast. Look at that guy right there.
I have one question. Is your goal to almost fail at the last rep, or still have some power left?
That again, that kind of goes back to the value and goals.
Okay. Yeah.
How do you feel about that? We have some, I'll have parts of the system again where we'll go through, and I usually run guys through on a 5 set. First one doesn't count, it's a warm-up set. We do that at like 50 or 55%. Next one's lighter but heavier, so usually like 65%. And then we go heavy from there. So I'll do like 2 5s, 3 3s. Okay, and we up it from there. Now, here recently, and he loves doing this because it gives us a better idea of where guys are with how quickly they're progressing. We'll throw in as many reps as possible at like 90%. So we'll have him go to 90%, get as many reps as you can. Because you know right off the bat, if I got a guy that can get 90% of his maximum and he can do like 5 reps of it, his max went up. And I know that right now before we even max. So we'll throw that in on the guys every once in a while. Plus, that really breeds some competition in the weight room.
Big time, guys. If you want your players to set goals, we have kids that hit goals that they never think. I'll set a goal for a kid to be 350 on squat by March, and he's squatting 275 in December, and he's going, there's no way. You start doing AMRAP sets at 90% along the way, and he starts to see like, hey, I just did my old max 5 times.
Yeah.
Hey, they start to get this confidence about them, and then they start to push the limits a little bit, and they start to find that next level that's going to get them there. I love sets like that. You don't do them all the time, but they've helped us dramatically.
Dramatically?
Dramatically, so I'm tired.
Kind of what John said, we're really successful in the weight room too. Even if we're doing 75% and it's a set of 8, our last set, we always are lifting to failure. So we're always trying to get, then our kids know, you know, and as Coach Clark's here, as they look at their stuff and they see the kid did a set of 10 instead of a set of 8, well, they now know his 75% is going to, his max, he's over his max already. So the kids kind of get that too. They know that 75% is correlated.
And another side of that, and this is like the last thing we'll get into in this presentation. That's a good way, like going to failure like that, but having a system about it is a good way to max guys without testing guys. Okay. Load and reward, and I just call it reward because it's what you get out of it. Okay. Percentage of the load. Okay. What its focus is going to be at that load, what they're going to do, and what effect it has on the body. Okay? So I went from 30 to 50 here. There's a lot of people that argue this. I went with what this person had in his chart. A lot of people would argue 40 to 60 is the best power range. I found out these right here really piss your players off. They do not like working at this, okay? So the only thing that we do here is like we'll take some plyo stuff and throw it in here. We'll do med ball. Med ball throws against a wall here. Med ball tosses in the air here, because then they can't keep track of what percentage you're working them at, okay? And they still have to be really explosive. So this is where most of our power work happens, okay? And even in here, like he'll call me up and he'll be like, hey man, the guys need to power clean. Like we're going to max in 2 weeks. They need to put some weight on the bar. Because most of the time I have our guys right in here. Okay?
And I'll be honest, as a coach, the coach in me, when Andy's the strength guy, I'm the guy I run the weight room, he designs the programs. So the way we're set up, I get frustrated sometimes because we're cleaning and we've got 65% of the bar, and I don't feel like our players are really working. And he's like, move the bar faster. If it's light, move it faster. Because power really is strength plus speed. You know, it's how fast we move it. Well, I struggle with that sometimes. Every time we go to max, we kill our maxes, and we've been lifting in the 65th percentile. And we're killing our maxes because they're so much more explosive because they're moving quicker. The hard thing I've had is convincing 16 and 17-year-old kids that that's working, and they just need to trust the system. So he'll throw in some heavy clean days every now and then, and they'll be shocked how light their 90% felt. You know, but it really does work, and I'm guilty as a coach of saying, hey, we need to put more weight on the bar and feel it that way. We don't really have to and still get results.
And an easy example here that you can use, well, you can sort of use because you're also having to break a long-standing habit. They just came out this year, they actually did the research to prove that like the weighted bats for baseball, the warm-up swing, completely ineffective. All those guys are doing is wasting swings in the on-deck circle. Completely ineffective in increasing bat speed when the guy goes to the plate. Okay? So take that for example. If we're gonna power clean at 90% all the time, we're not moving weight fast. We're moving it at the same speed all the time, just trying to get it up that high. Okay? If we move it faster and we get better at moving faster, that heavy weight moves faster. Okay?
Guys, this works. We have workouts early in the year where he'll have us cleaning at 45 and 50%.
That really ticks the guys off.
And what I'll do is I'll call my team up and I'll say, your sets are light today, and they're like, yes. And I'm like, what's the purpose in the weight room today? And I have to remind them the why. Speed, move the bar fast, move the bar fast. And I'm like, you move your feet, move the bar fast. If I remind them that, we had guys 40s dropping 2/10 this winter. Like, we got significantly quicker moving a lighter bar this winter in the weight room.
When I was at ISU, when we would squat, they had a little electrical system hooked to the
Yeah.
bar, and you had to get 1.0
Yeah.
to meet your thing. And if you were too slow, you had to take weight off. You had to keep taking weight off until your speed was at the maximum power output. And so they had that whole thing that you could measure it with.
Yeah,
And
you
so
guys,
the goal was to keep raising your weight to still
you guys
get
want to
that
spend
same
some money in
power.
your program?
Pretty cool.
We need a
We
weight
haven't spent the
room.
money on that.
Yeah.
Oh, we used to have an access for money, so of course.
Yeah, see how that works?
Yeah.
Yeah, so with an unlimited supply of funding, you can get all that stuff. And what it does, basically what he's talking about, it measures the velocity of the bar, and you can track that. So on your power days, what coaches have shifted to now is if they're focusing on power and they've broken it down to strength power, speed power, they break it down even farther. They know exactly what number range their guys need to be in to maximize power at that weight. And like he was saying, you had to be at 1.0 because that's where you're maxing your speed at that weight. Optimal hypertrophy. If you guys are trying to gain weight in the off season, don't do this during season. In the off season, when you're trying to gain weight, 75 to 80% is your maximum body building weight range. Okay. Now, another note on there. When you're doing that, you're not eating salads. Okay? When you're doing this, you're eating, and you're eating like 5 or 6 times a day. Okay? Because you're demolishing muscle tissue, you have to rebuild it with something. If you're going to the gym and you're demolishing muscle tissue and all you had today was lunch, that day just killed your next 2 days. Okay? You have to recover and rebuild your body or it's not doing any good at all. Okay? And notice where strength ends up. You get strong by moving weight. Just like you get fast by running fast. You don't get fast by running at 50%. You get better at running at 50%. Okay? You get fast by running as fast as you can all the time. So you get stronger by lifting heavy weight. Okay? And now go back to this again, just kind of walk through the year. We're building guys up and getting stronger coming out of the postseason here. We're building on strength, so now my strength numbers go up higher. Okay? Okay, I'll walk you through from the beginning here. We're going to start out here coming off the end of the season. We don't max at the end of the season. Okay? We come out not having any idea where the guys are. We're just going to try to put some size on, work on their strength, get them stronger again. We're going to build up their strength a little bit. These percentages are going to increase on a weekly basis until we max. Okay? Now they've maxed for the first time. Now we know where everybody stands at the beginning of the year. So now we use these percentages to develop the rest of the program. We're going to focus on strength, but right here we're still going 4 times a week. I'm still trying to put some meat on our guys. Okay? So this is where our guys, January, February, put on their size. This is where they're getting bigger. And a lot of them, like a lot of guys, you play a full season, you might lose like 15 pounds. Okay? We don't want that. We want you to get back even higher than you were before. Coming into March, I'm trying to get everybody a little more ready for spring ball. So we're going to shift to strength and power. So we're doing heavier strength work, and I'm throwing in the lighter power work. Okay, so we're stronger. Now I got to get them moving a little faster. Then we max again, going into spring ball, because I don't want maxing during spring ball. That's just kind of the way it breaks up. That first week there is spring break. All the kids are in Florida. Most of them are probably drinking, having a good time. So when they come back this first week, okay, we already know that. That week's going to be, so it's a lighter week. We don't just come in and kill them. Okay? Week after that, we're pushing things again. We started spring ball here. So now I focus on power because they're going to be running their practices throughout the week. So I focus on the power and I back off on the strength a little bit. So the strength's a little lighter here, power's a little more. What I'll do here is I'll work in like a power clean progression, which will be the workout. So we'll do like 4 sets of RDL or deadlift from the floor. We'll do like 4 sets of hang clean or hang shrug and then into hang clean and then into power clean. So I got 4 exercises that we just did like 12 reps of. That's 48 reps already. Okay. Now I throw in some auxiliary lifts with some shoulder stuff, maybe a little more hamstring and some arms, and we're done. That's what that'll look like during that. Come back out of school, strength, power, I just shift back to strength so the guys are a little stronger, try to maintain the power as we go in to the summer. From here to here, I'm still increasing strength and I'm trying to keep the guys fast. Okay? And then we come into season. Season, I always focus on power. The Olympic lifts are my main thing during the season and keeping the guys strong in the lifts they're in. Okay? The only thing we'll tweak here, and I don't plan it out yet, is because we don't know how injuries are going to look and we don't know how bad our guys are going to feel after a game yet. So I wait and find out before I plan any of the rest of that.
So when do you guys start your speed program?
We work on our speed program year-round.
You're right.
Basically, if we're not in the weight room, we're working speed. And depending on how it works out, we'll work speed and weight training the same day. So that kind of all works together. Yeah, our speed, agility, conditioning stuff, year-round, all the time. The speed's like strength. If you take off time, you're getting slower. Okay, so now we'll get into a little more specific stuff. And if you're not writing strength programs or developing strength programs, the rest of this isn't going to mean a lot. Okay? And this is how I piece things together. R7 Modified, this comes from Mike Robertson, who runs Robertson Training Systems in Indianapolis. This became big when Joe Kinn picked it up and started utilizing it with his tier system. Okay? He uses R7. They're all R's. Okay? Release, reset, readiness, reactive, resistance, resiliency, recovery, and regeneration. Okay? Now to break these down, the release part is like, this is like when you first come in. Release and reset. You first come into the weight room, you're feeling kind of tight and sitting all day or whatever. Foam roll, you get a massage that morning and then you show up, something to get the tissues going again. Reset, parasympathetic nervous system. Okay? Breathing and relaxation. From sitting down all the time, we get stuck. Our diaphragms get stuck under our rib cage. Okay? We get all amped up from all the stress throughout the day. So what this does at the beginning, and this is just little breathing exercises like hand on the front, hand on the back. And all you're doing is expanding, pushing those hands away, deep breath out, bringing those hands together. And all it's doing is telling your brain, we're going to focus on breathing. Okay? Just kind of resets that stress. Readiness, now you jump into your warm-up. You're just trying to get your body ready to work. Reactive, they do the reactive stuff first. And this is the exact order he operates in. So his weight training program for the day, it looks like this. It's 8 pieces of what you're doing. Okay? All the agilities, plyo work, med ball, anything like that, all happens at the beginning. Why might that be the case? The nervous system.
So it's alert and not been really distraught by your training.
These take a lot more thinking,
Yeah.
don't they? You have to think about what you're doing, have to move a lot. So nervous system wise, you want to get those out of the way first before guys are tired. And that's more of a safety thing. Other people will say, We do this at the end because I want my guys to have to think when they're tired. And you can flip those back and forth. You just have to know, cost of that is safety, and that's all it really comes down to. Then you get into your weight training. Okay, so this, you've got, I'm getting ready. This is like you show up, just the stuff you do before you get started. Readiness, now the team's going to go through the warm-up. Reactive, we're getting this stuff out of the way first. And what I like to do, like when we have to run things together, I try to get John to take our best group and do the speed work first before they're in the weight room. Okay, and vice versa. I want the best guys getting the most out of their workout. Okay? So that's how we kind of flip this. Because a lot of times you won't have time for everything. Resistance training, you get your whole workout in right there. Resiliency, your sport-specific work. Okay? Notice it says work capacity. What do you need for your sport? Now, a lot of you guys, like everybody wants to be a wide receiver. Number one way to change a kid's mind about wide receiver, if you don't want him to play it, make him run like a wide receiver. Okay? Some wide receivers run like 12 miles in a game, running deep routes. You put a kid through that at practice one day and then be like, you still want to be a receiver? He's probably going to be like, hey, linebacker sounds good, coach. You know, like, so that's kind of a work capacity thing. Your wide receivers have to run more during a game than anybody. Your linemen, they don't have to run 50 yards, do they? They run 5 yards repetitively, or 10 yards repetitively. So you get in that sport-specific work capacity. You're building their system for exactly what it needs to be.
So I guess the key word there is capacity.
Yes.
Since it's not sport-specific work. In terms of you wouldn't specify, like you wouldn't do sport-specific drills in the weight room. You would do.
They could be.
Oh really?
Little like today.
Okay.
Like when I had the O-line guys do a
okay.
specific thing with the bar. Now, I can sit them there, full time of a plays. How many seconds? Do this, 6 seconds. Take 20 seconds off. Do this, you know. So you can make it exactly like a game scenario. Recovery, now you're shifting back again. So now we're kind of right back up to here. We're trying to calm the body down at the end of the workout. Okay? Now this sheet is good for you guys that are doing the workouts. Okay? If you can put yourself through this every time you work out, you're going to get your body right back ready to recover every time. At the end of the workout, go through the breathing exercises again. Take some time to do some light stretching. It helps your body calm down. Instead of being all jacked up and being like, we got to go, and you just go jump in the car. Then everything's going to tighten up on you as you're sitting there. Okay? And then regeneration, supplements and food, and sleep. I should have added sleep. Okay? Supplements, sleep, and food. I put supplements because most people don't eat right after a workout. And that is the best time to put stuff in your body. Because when your body's all depleted and trying to regenerate, it's like, give me something. So if you put those supplements in, like a shake or some amino acids or something right at the end of a workout, they're going straight into where they need to go. The tier system. This one's all Joe Kent. He came up with all this. It's based on your athlete's performance. Okay? It requires testing, and initially a lot of testing, because you have to assess each athlete for this to be worked correctly. The number one thing, according to Coach Kent, okay, who's now with the Jacksonville Jaguars, is your exercise library. Your library of exercises is what your go-to is. So it is the most important part of your program, because you have to have something to choose from for every occasion. He breaks it, initially, broke it into either body parts, triple extension exercises, or effort level. Okay? Now over here, I've kind of thrown together how I set ours up. And this varies, but this is how we set it up. On a 4-day split, I have a high-intense day, a low-intense day, high-intense day, low-intense day. That's how I undulate my guys. Okay? Rotation, when we first started, was how we'd start guys on the exercises so we weren't using all the weight room at the same time. Now, we don't have that problem anymore, so I don't even use the rotation. This is just how we break the workouts. And I use it more of a, we start here this day, we start here this day. Focus that day is total body, upper body, lower body, upper body. So if you just look at this and think about lifts, what would my total body day be? Squat day? What was lower day? Okay. Lower day is our squat day. Okay. I focus on lower body. A lot of squats and our hamstrings that day. Total body day is our power day. And I could just call it power day because about everything we do has to do with Olympic lifting on that day. Upper day we split bench and incline. Okay. I don't like doing those on the same day because I want them to maximize what they get out of the lift. The way I break it up, we do a total body, lower body, upper body, and then a total body, lower body, upper body. Now I've changed this. The last season, I'll focus on one full group, and then the second half tends to be one large accessory lift that helps with lifts we've already done, and then things like shoulders and arms. Okay? The last stuff is an abdominal circuit of some sort or some core work. Okay? Now the other thing that I don't have on this sheet that we'll throw in a lot is a yoga day. And this is just kind of help the guys recover from what we put them through. We'll throw in a day where he'll take them through about a 30-minute circuit of yoga. Okay? Focus on breathing, get the body moving, a lot of stretching movements in there, just to get them recovered. I broke that up there. I call that care at the end, but it's actually just abdominal work.
So when you have, just so that I understand, you had to focus, and then you have, are these like drills or lifts that you would have? So number one would be
These
one
would be
lift.
lifts.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you
So
would
in this case, it'd be like, take your example. Okay, so on this day we start with power clean.
Yep.
On power clean day, let me throw in RDLs for
Okay.
lower. Upper body, I'd probably throw shoulder in
Okay.
right there. Okay, maybe jerk because it's power day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, and then I come down, and because we did jerk here, total again. No, so my total would be jerk. So
Mhm.
I'd make that arms.
Yeah.
Arms and then jerk. And then lower again, I'd probably do like glute hams,
Okay.
something like that. So heavy hamstring. And I usually do heavy hamstring twice a week. And then upper. So just throw in some curls or something like that at
Okay.
the end to make everybody happy before they walk out of the gym. So. Exercise selection. Okay, and this is how, like I was saying, he broke it initially into triple extension, total lower body, he put that together, and then upper body. And this is what his exercise library looked like to begin with. This is how he broke it down. Notice here he breaks it into double leg pull, single leg pull. Okay? And he just splits it into that. Snatch, clean, jumping, swinging, and throwing. They're all triple extension apps. Does everybody know what triple extension is? Okay. Triple extension is ankle extension, hip extension, shoulder extension. So when you do any power movement, you're extending through all three pieces of your body. Triple extension. That's why it's called that. That's why anytime you do a power clean or a snatch or anything like that, it should look like you're jumping. And if you actually watch the video of some of the Olympic athletes, they run them in slow-mo, they leave the ground by like 3 to 4 inches with all that weight in their hand. There's a girl that broke the American record this year. Most impressive clean I've ever seen. She left the ground, significantly left the ground. Okay. System. Putting it all together here. This is where he breaks it into exactly what he's focusing on here. So his tier, this is where it gets confusing with the tiers because they break in the tiers and then he says, oh yeah, tier 1, tier 2, and you're like, wait a minute, I thought we were just talking about tiers. Tier 1 focuses on speed. They're working snatch, clean, overhead press. Tier 2 is focusing on effort. Squats, bench, deadlift. Okay. Tier 3 is working on volume and mobility. Tier 4, volume and mobility, but differently. Okay? And then Tier 5 is conditioning guys. Now, one thing you can do here, set up your workout so you have 5 groups at the workout, One starts on tier 5, one starts on tier 4. That way you have guys doing different workouts throughout like a circuit. Another way to do it is, this level of athlete is my elite guy. He's working on this. This level, one step down. This goes back to grading your athletes. Your new guys, this is what they're working right now. This is what they're going to be doing. So you can work at level of athlete, or you can work it like you're running circuits. Okay? Either way works pretty good. Most guys now use it like they're running circuits in a weight room so they can rotate stations.
So what's the PHR?
Blue ham race.
Oh,
Good questions. Okay. This is the way they break down effort. Okay, dynamic effort, speed squats. Okay, the difference here is, and they use box squats for a reason. You touch the box, you get off that box as fast as you can. Okay? It's pretty hard to measure speed squats the right way when guys are just freely doing it, because it gets real sloppy up top when guys are going fast. But if you get a guy that comes down, touches, and then pops, you can see how fast they're getting back out of the hole. Okay? Max effort, back squat. Repeat effort would be like holding a dumbbell or a kettlebell in your hand doing goblet squat. It's just straight down and up. Okay? Now, each one of these, power, strength, endurance. Okay? That's why they break it up that way. Wave cycles is just a way of describing how this is set up. It's a really good in-season tool. Okay? And this is where I get into how you mix everything up. We've talked about the tier system, now I'm talking about wave cycles. We're going to get into something else, and then we're going to have to piece it all together. Okay? In-season tool. This is our schedule this year. Already got it broken up, what we're going to focus on each week of the season, based on how tough I think these games are going to be. Alright? They're called waves because this is my wave. My wave is what my load is. Okay? It's basically like here, low, medium, high. And I have a base week, neural, and neural. Okay? So I go low, medium, high, high, and high. And these are high weeks because these are two really tough games. Alright? Then we come back to volume because that's a bye week. They've got that week off. Now that volume will be based on how these games go right here. If these are really tough games with a lot of beat up kids, that volume's not going to be that much that week. Okay? And then come back to a medium, high, high. Okay? And that's just the way that I break up the season. And based on nervous system loading, how intense the workouts are. And I threw in here, I don't know if you guys know anything about the 5-3-1 system with Jim Windler. Okay? They've proven it to be the most effective way to build strength. Okay? You work reps down. Like 1 week will be 5 reps. Next